On this episode of AV Week, Peerless-AV gets an ISO certification for environmental sustainability. Zoomtopia has come and gone. Zoomtopia 2020, the latest release is coming out of that. And Teams gets NDI. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 478, recorded Friday, October 16th, 2020. The Zoom platform.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment, and by FSR.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week are actually two of my hosts of other shows. They didn't plan it that way, but hey, I'm happy to have it. So first and foremost, we'll start with the veteran podcast host, Mr. Steve Greenblatt from Control Concepts. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And Steve hosts our State of Control program, looks at control automation. Also with us is Frank Patakala. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Frank has just recently taken over. We used to call it the IT AV show when I did it because I didn't know anything about IT, and some could argue I don't know anything about AV. But Frank is adjusted that to call it the IT factor. Still kind of looks at the IT segment as well as AV. So thank you guys both so much. This week was an interesting week. It was a busy week, actually. Not only did formerly Stampede Exertis now here in North America have their event, but also Zoomtopia took place. Zoomtopia 2020, obviously virtual. I shouldn't say that at this point, but obviously virtual. A number of product announcements, adjustments, and new initiatives. One of the interesting things was kind of seeing some of those behind the scenes photos of how Zoom was actually doing it. CEO Eric Wan was in a studio, green screen. He had several monitors to look at, depending on who he brought on, including Mark Cuban and a number of other guests. So Frank, I want to start with you. I've got a couple that I kind of honed in on and thought were unique. But from your perspective, what do you see coming down the pipeline from Zoom based on Zoomtopia?
So as a first-time attendee of Zoomtopia, I got to say it was quite the experience. They had quite the array of speakers. I wasn't obviously able to attend the whole thing. I tried to do it in bits and pieces, which I think is a advantageous of people who are busy at this time of the year. And the one thing that really stood out for me was the end-to-end encryption. I'm really impressed about that because that is something that is critical in this day and age, and the fact that they can ensure that level of encryption with whatever number of participants. I think the limit was 100 callers or something, correct me if I'm wrong, but to able to offer encryption at that level is critical. And I think it shows Zoom's commitment to mainstreaming this and to take it to all kinds of levels. When Zoom started off many years ago, it may have been pigeonholed to become to be seen as a conferencing solution, but I think they've gone way beyond that. I like to call them a platform. They are probably the digital equivalent of Cat 6 at this point, and that is thoroughly impressive for me and from a security and IT perspective.
It's also quite a statement too. I mean, that's yeah. I'll agree with that they're a platform, and we'll talk about why I think that in a second. But the digital version of Cat 6 is quite the statement, Frank.
Yeah, because they have cool apps coming along. Their SDK is impressive. One thing that stood out, and I'm going to go back to that Twitter thread from a couple of weeks ago where we were arguing if salespeople should be allowed to do site surveys, and I'm going to respond to that with the MyTech solution. It's actually an app-based solution with a Google Glass integration. Basically, you can wear it and you can live using an internet. I think it's Wi-Fi based. You're able to conference in a team of people, and at the same time with normal voice commands like show them what I'm seeing or let me see them, statements like that, and you're able to actually visualize people and they're able to see what you're seeing. Trust me, it's a game changer for a lot of these installations. I mean, if the current climate persists for longer, in which we're not able to mobilize large teams to go on site, and what limited resources are going to our construction, our implementation sites. Tools like this can be critical in making sure that we have technical resources in the background able to visualize and see and problem solve. I mean, it's a game changer. Things like that, little things that we've always had on our wish list. We talk among each other and say, I wish there was an app that did this.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Zoom able to make those dreams come true. Well, it's Zoom and the platform they're allowing for other innovators to come in and expand upon them. So I think that's amazing.
All right, Mr. Greenblatt, same kind of question. What did you see come out of Zoomtopia this week?
Well, I'll agree with what Frank's saying in terms of the platform idea, and what I think the biggest statement is that Zoom's not going to rest on their laurels. They're going to continue to innovate. They're going to continue to move forward, and they're not going to just offer the basic conferencing solution. They're going to give you something that becomes a tool and is going to be something that companies invest in. And I think that right now, of course, we're seeing it become Zoom being a term, and Zoom, people joke around a lot about Zoom, and you see Zoom used in the media and in schools and so on and so forth. But Zoom is going to really be probably a foundation product that businesses are going to build around. And it's likely going to be, in addition to adding more tools to use Zoom, because so for example, we use Zoom Phone and Zoom Video, and that's a start. And we use Slack for our messaging collaboration. I would envision that that's going to be something that gets built into a Zoom platform moving forward, if it isn't already, and more of that type of a centerpiece of a business operation. And also, what this says to me too is that that this whole idea of a hybrid life is probably going to be the case, and we're now going to leverage the fact that we can do more from being where we are versus being in person. And not to say that it's going to replace being in person, but it's going to augment being in person. To Frank's point about being able to send somebody somewhere and say, show me what you're seeing. I think that would be a great way. I mean, we've talked about in the past, how do you remotely diagnose a problem rather than having to go out to a job site? I mean, this is a great tool for something like that. And I think that there's going to be a lot more to come.
Absolutely. And to build on Frank's point about a platform, there's a couple things that they released. Number one is called Zaps. That is the Zoom app store. Yes, Zoom is getting an app store. And Mr. Greenblatt just kind of gave them a use case. He says that he uses Zoom for video communications and Slack for network or for communication and kind of chat between his employees. There's an app for that inside the Zoom platform. You can bring in Slack, you can bring in Asana, you can bring in a number of other applications to kind of live inside the Zoom platform. The other apps part of that is what they're calling immersive scenes. Now the three kind of examples they gave, and you can Google this or utilize the link on the episode page here, but one is the classroom, right? And it's very similar to Teams, the Teams look and feel, where you have the teacher up in the upper right hand corner, and all of the students are in virtual desks, right? Okay, we've seen that. The two though that really got me, one was the courtroom, where you have a judge. The judge, it's a female judge. She was front and center, and she was kind of like at the head of a organizational chart. And then below the judge, you had the lawyers for the defense and for the prosecution, and you had the defendants and then prosecution, and then you had the jurors, right? All of them are kind of positioned throughout the space, instead of the Brady Bunch look that our gallery view will give us now. And you can customize them. So I think that you're gonna see, honestly, quite frankly, programs like this one and other folks utilize this. And I'm not quite sure what the specs are, but we'll get our marketing team and our creative folks on it. And I don't know, maybe I'll put you two on a couch and I'll sit behind a desk like Johnny Carson, and because I'm that old. So that was the other part of this. And then the other part is something called On Zoom. which is a way for instructors, yoga teachers, cooking classes they were giving demos of, a way for those folks to kind of generate revenue. You can buy a ticket, a virtual ticket, and be given access to a specific time and place to have a virtual class or a virtual session with someone. And if you go to On Zoom, you go to Zoom's website and go to the On Zoom, they have free ones and they have ones that you can pay money for. So that'll, again, back to Frank's point about this becoming a platform. It certainly is, or at least that's where Zoom is looks like they're heading. So. Next story actually comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine. NDI is getting integrated into Microsoft Teams. Not that they make this show entirely about UC. Trust me, the last story has nothing to do with unified communications. NDI is getting integrated into Microsoft Teams, according to the announcement from NDI. The addition of NDI to Teams, quote unquote, allows for versatile video workflows through a Teams meeting. As a result of the integration, the video feed of Teams meetings participants, the screen sharing feed, and the together mode will all be available for use with each Teams caller separated out as an NDI source to be added to any production. Ms. Greenblatt, we'll start with you, and just so folks are understand what NDI is. NDI came to us from our friends over at NewTek, the creators of the TriCaster and the versions of that on. But quite frankly, it's video over a network, right? And you are able to bring in a camera feed as a networked camera feed. So in other words, it lives on the network. You can bring that into a virtual environment as a virtual input. That's kind of what Teams has done here. Is that they've said, hey, you know what? You're on the network. We're on the network. Let's all kind of get together. So as we're looking at this, Steve, it looks like it's another iteration, another add-on for enhancing virtual production, right? Enhancing the virtual experience. What else do we see coming down the pipeline, either from the team standpoint or the NDI standpoint?
I like the the idea of supporting more creativity and being able to allow you to have the flexibility of bringing in different types of sources and having interconnectivity and making Teams native almost with some of these products. And I think that's what the NDI solution provides. It seems to me like this is a big advancement for being able to do more mobile broadcasts, probably, and also providing more smaller companies being able to do big productions. I think for virtual events, it's going to be huge. Something like this, if even if you're able to set up your own studio similar to what we have here, as you said, you can now bring in different camera angles or being able to do special effects potentially and enhance the experience.
No. Frank, give me your 2 cents on this, because if you're not familiar with this, and not you, the audience, 90% of the time, if you're trying to bring in a video feed, a commercial or a professional video feed, that's not a webcam, right? It's not a USB connected webcam. You're looking at some sort of converter, and I've got a couple of my favorites. If you want to know mine, email me. I'm not going to give folks one way or the other, but there are ways to convert both SDI as well as HDMI into a single USB stream. You can also combine several HDMIs into a single USB stream and use that as kind of a switcher. This gives you the ability, though, granted, understanding that there is bandwidth limitations here, but virtually as many cameras as you want, right, into your system. Based on, as long as you have an IP address and that sucker's on the network, you can bring it in as an input. What does this do? I mean, not only for, Steve and I were talking, the virtual events, but also for education, right? For corporate meetings. What does this do, and how big of a jump is this, not just for NDI, but also for Teams?
Before I answer your question, I just have to say, it's impressive the amount of R&D these folks are putting in to come out with these solutions. It is spectacular. Now, I've always been a fan of NDI. I'm a fan of all AV over IP solutions. I'm kind of like the AV version of AV over IP Beetlejuice. I mean, you say AV over IP anywhere on the socials, I'm somehow going to jump in because I love this concept. Because the thing is, what I love about any over IP or network-based or PC-based solution for that matter is that we're leveraging something that's readily accessible to a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And what that does is, like Steve said, there's creativity out there, and sometimes creativity is stifled by your infrastructure. You don't have the resources. You can't exactly afford a broadcast camera. You can't exactly afford a switcher. You want to do these things by yourself. You don't have the money to pay for a team. And this particular solution, and I'm going to dive into it because I actually went quite deep into looking at how it works.
I am shocked.
It's I mean, it's amazing. It's something as simple as an admin enabling a toggle on your Teams platform saying you have the NDI output. And once you enable that, there are other NDI devices on your network, they're able to see each of your streams. So at this point, if we were doing this call on Teams, there would be 3 separate streams coming in as video feeds, and they also bring in the together mode, and the audio is embedded into it. What that does to an individual or a person wanting to do a production style event alone is that with a few clicks of a mouse button, he's able to do your broadcast quality swipes, your transitions, your effects, just bringing in that broadcast quality effects to a common platform to everyday use. And that's amazing. The options, the ability to expand upon this is limitless, and it's a great integration. I mean, NewTek has pioneered a lot of great solutions with their NDI platform. It is a standard among the other thousands of standards currently existing. But the thing that they have done is that they have, again, partnered up with Teams, making sure that their solution is now, has a platform to go upon. It goes back to our previous conversation about Zoom and how they've enabled the SDK and their app stores to enhance itself as a platform by enabling people to play on that platform. It's like opening up a huge stadium and saying, hey, this is open, you guys can come in, and why don't you guys do a concert here? And the next guy comes in and says, I don't want to do a concert, I want to do a motivational speaking event. And the next guy comes in and says, I want to do stand-up. And the next guy says, I want to do drama here. So the options are limitless with the way they've implemented their solutions. And it also speaks to the fact that you can go as big or as small as you want. You can have this and make it a manned event with like a team of people doing a broadcast, or you can actually do a pretty nifty setup as an individual. And that mainstream effect, I think this is what we're looking forward to. You see platforms like Teams and Zoom are taking the tools available to AV professionals like us, integrating it into their platform and saying, okay, you guys do whatever you want, right? It also puts a question mark on a lot of these box-based solutions, the codecs, the systems that we have, that we use and that you're so used to. And it says, well, you don't really need that. All you need is a PC, right? Or all you need is a network. All you need is a network switch. They have translated something that used to be elite, so to speak, and put it down to the common man's plate and said, have at it, do what you want with it.
Yeah, absolutely. The one question, and this is more rhetorical, and either of you can answer this or neither of you. What kind of advantage does this give Teams over Zoom? Because let's be frank, that Zoom does not have this ability right now, right?
Not yet anyway.
Well,
not yet. That my first thought when I saw the article was not yet. I mean, I'm sure Zoom's considering their options here, because this is right up Zoom's alley. I mean, it's something they're potentially looking at. I mean, I can't speak for Zoom, but I'd love to think that they are currently envisioning a process where it's simplified to this level. And to respond to your question on how does it help Teams over them, is that now Teams is kind of like the upgrade, and it was the next level evolution of Skype, right? And what kind of was a deterrent to Skype users was that when you say I'm gonna give you a call on Skype, or we're gonna do it over Skype, That's just what it is. It's just a communication platform. But Teams elevates that. It's able to, put your workflow in place. It's able to bring in your team, so to speak, and your corporate organization is now reliant on a platform. And by including broadcast quality video and audio, Teams has identified that people are doing this. We're tired of the regular webcam with the fuzzy video. We need quality stuff. I mean, we've seen enough of that. We'd like to hear good audio. We'd like to see good video. We'd like to see people, not as boxes. A lot of things that we complain about, Teams has seen that, and they're saying, all right, this is a way you can take your sessions to the next level.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Last story here actually comes to us from our friends over at AV Network. We'll talk about them in a second. We're doing an event with them. But Peerless-AV has earned the ISO 14001:2015 Environmental Management System implementation and certification. What this means is that Peerless, from a production standpoint and a manufacturing standpoint, have adhered to certain standards that does a number of things, including protecting the environment and enhancing environmental performance and reducing the environmental footprint. Frank, I'll start with you on this. What is this? What does in today's day and age, in 2020, are we still looking at this as a mark and a reason to do business with someone, or is this something where we just kind of expect people that are already doing this, or are businesses still expected to make sure that they're doing right by the environment?
So, I absolutely think people are looking at it, and I can speak to it from the perspective of somebody who is, say, I'm a job seeker. Say I'm a person looking for a job. Say I'm a person on the other side of the fence, not particularly a client. This is a huge fact. What it shows to me, and not just the ISO 14000 series of certifications or the 9001, which Peerless apparently also has. So, shout out to them. And the reason I'm going to talk about this is because in a previous life, I did have a lot of experience doing this. I did help a company set up their first ISO certification. And I can tell you it's a pain. So to start off, to say that a company actually went through the process of getting certified, it shows their commitment to ensuring that their product has a certain level of quality, and in this case, a certain level of environmental awareness attached to it. And again, maybe on an everyday basis when we're communicating with people, they might not see it as a huge concern, but I personally am a huge believer that environmental awareness and implementing things that are environmental friendly are in fact beneficial to an organization. And not to say that this means that they're going crazy and they're counting the number of plastic bags coming into their facility and making sure that they're just that's not exactly what it is. It just says that they have a process in place for any potential environmental related questions, and they've documented it, and they have a system by which they can enhance themselves. That's what a quality management system is. People shouldn't misunderstand having an ISO certification to thinking, oh, these guys are the best. I'm not saying that Peerless does not have quality products. Their products have an amazing quality attached to it, but it just shows that they have a continual process of improving themselves. In this case, with respect to the environment or quality, whatever it is, they have a process in place. It's documented. There will be scenarios where their documentation falls apart and they don't have the answer to how am I going to dispose of this particular thing, or how am I going to do this according to the standard. But that's what the standard is. It says that when you have a particular issue that's not covered by it, this is what you do. It gives you a sort of a standard to go back to and say, with a set of questions, does this do this? Yes. Does it do this? No. Okay. This is what you probably should be doing with it, and document it. And so it's sort of like, and Steve will attest to the programming approach to this. Like that's what quality programmers, when they write code, they write 10 lines of code, and obviously it never ends at 10 lines of code because the customer then comes and says, hey, can you tweak this a little bit? They don't throw away their 10 lines of code. They improve upon it. They better it, and they make sure that the next time this comes around, they have a process in place. So it's a continual process, like a well-written program that can replicate and grow to give you a standard solution. In this case, environmental friendly solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, you and I, been around enough manufacturers in our lives, and during this time and in this economic challenge, is sustainability not just a good, good for the environment? It's good as a corporate to be a good corporate citizen, but also for the bottom line, right? Looking at this and making sure that you are maintaining a sustainable environment, both economically, but also from a corporate citizenship standpoint.
Well, to your point, the one thing that I was going to point out is that it's a great differentiator, and I think as Frank said, especially the younger generations, they like to support a cause too, and I think that there's going to be a little bit of connectivity with a company that has a similar belief system, and I think all the things that Frank said would certainly lead to a stronger company. And whether it's trying to improve your quality or improve your environmental behavior or your responsibility, what you're doing is you're committing to having a certain level of standards or level of quality product, and I think that all of these things, because of the processes involved in having to go through them, nothing is going to be done haphazardly or rogue, and it's probably going to catch a lot of mistakes and just make everybody that much better, much more aware. And so the company in itself, they may have spent a lot of money trying to get to this point, or even cost them money to do this, but in the end, they're likely going to be producing a better quality product and having a better operation to be able to address their clients and have both marketability and also probably efficiency.
Very good. That'll be a good place to stop it. Thank you both so much. Frank Patakala, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And how do people get a hold of you?
You can reach me at Twitter. It's Frank Patakala. I'm there on LinkedIn. And if you are a fan of IT shows, please follow my podcast. It's called IT Factor in my home base at AVNation.
All right, very good. And Mr. Greenblatt, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Always good to see everybody. You can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. Frank and I are on AV and the AM very often, so that's how we've gotten to know each other, and encourage people to join that conversation on Sunday mornings. Company Control Concepts at controlconcepts.net. And also, if you're interested in learning more about AV programming, control, automation, join Rich Fregosa and I at State of Control at AVNation.tv.
All right, very good. For us, for AVNation, don't follow me on the Twitters, but go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You will find this program, a host of others, including these two hosts. So, if you like what Frank had to say, follow him and listen and watch the IT Factor. The first episode he did was really good. The second one, I think, is my favorite, just because you had some really great people. Not that the folks from Fraunhofer was not very nice, but I don't know them. I knew everybody that was on the second episode. So check them out. And then, Steve's show, which is, close to my heart as being a former programmer. So control, State of Control as well. Also, while you're there, check out our underwriters. These are the folks who help us financially, help us bring you AVWeek and State of Control and IT Factor and all the others. Also, we are partnering up with our friends over at Future System Contractors News, AV Technology Magazine, a bunch of other folks from the AV Network website. It's called AV Network Nation. See, AV Network and AV Nation, you put them together and that's what you get. AVN2, AVN to the power of 2. But AV Network Nation is the website. December 10th, we're getting together. Actually, Frank's joining me on a session there. Talking about AV over IP. Megan Dutt is doing a couple. I'm doing another one on networked audio. Our buddies from Q Division are coming in and doing a keynote. So all sorts of really great stuff. You can check that out and register for that now, all the way up through December 10th. So check that out at AV Network Nation. So that is all the time we have for AV Week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Again, that's all the time we have for AV Week.